Hello, welcome to another edition of Crop Life Retail Week. I'm Eric Sfiligoj, editor of Crop Life and Crop Life Iron magazines, here again today with Lara Sowinski from what I'm sure is incredibly hot El Paso, Texas. I'm sorry, Lara.
Well, again, having moved from the Palm Springs area, this is a good almost 10 degrees cooler. So it's not terrible. And it's not Death Valley. So it could be
Yeah,
worse.
I did see that little news item. I didn't read it, but I saw the headline that the Death Valley recorded the highest midnight temperature ever recorded on Earth the other day. I don't know what that temperature was, but I suspect it was not a good number for any living anything. So
No.
all right. Well, I hate to say it, but here in Ohio, my apologies, but it's about 68 degrees and I got the windows open. It's nice and cool. So
Look at you showing off. That's great.
this is the one time a year I can actually say, hey, look, no feet of snow outside my window. I actually have it open and the breeze is wonderful. So
Oh, good.
anyhow, hey, I know we were just kind of joking here, but on a very, very serious note, I know that about a month ago we reported on the fact that Russia had extended the Black Sea grain deal with the European countries, and that was going to guarantee that Ukrainian grain could be shipped out of Odessa to countries that needed it. But I guess we're past July 18th, and Russia has said at this point the deal is quote unquote dead. And actually, I was reading the other day that they have now started missile strikes against the port of Odessa, and they also are attacking other parts of the Ukrainian infrastructure when it comes to transportation. So this is a potential bad situation. What do you know about this?
Yeah, I mean, we saw this in October when the deal lapsed and Russia kind of dragged their feet to re-engage. The UN and Turkey are talking with Putin, trying to appease his demands. Nonetheless, I think this time seems a little more ominous. So, are you hearing anything other than what's being reported in the mainstream media?
Well, the one thing I did hear is in there, and I was in an event this week that I'll be talking about in a couple of minutes as we get through some of our other items. But some of the folks there were talking a little bit about grain and in general, and I did bring up, well, what does the Black Sea deal disappearing? What's that going to mean for the world? And the folks said that when that deal's end was first announced at the grain futures market here in the U.S., everything shot up like crazy. It seems to have settled back down because the conventional thinking was that, okay, if Ukraine cannot ship grain out of the port of Odessa, that they could be shipping stuff via rail, perhaps through Europe to get to other destinations in the Middle East where most of this grain ends up. But then they did point out that I guess on the night of July 17th, Russia actually launched an attack against the rail systems in the Ukraine, in and around the port. So it sounds like the war is being stepped up by Russia against Ukraine. So infrastructure is now being targeted, and again, that's the yin. The yang is, of course, demand for U.S. grains, corn and wheat. Looks like it's going to be increasing as maybe Ukraine comes off the table. So again, prices for growers in the U.S. here in 2023 that are, have a good harvest with corn and wheat, they may see a real good return on their investment for this year. So, in this bad situation, I guess that's the one positive everybody I talked to yesterday was bringing up.
I didn't realize just how much that Ukraine supplied, Asia, Western Europe, primarily Africa to a lesser extent, but the volume of grain. So with that void, I mean, that's a sizable amount to to fill. And yeah, I mean, it is a bright spot, because frankly, I mean, the numbers from the UN, looking at it just from a food security and a hunger aspect, I mean, that's something that you don't want to see. So thankfully, the US is in a position to alleviate some of that. So
Yeah, and the one other note, just to keep an eye on things globally, folks mentioned that I guess a lot of the grain in that region comes from Australia. So they said keep an eye on Australia's wheat production numbers, and if Australia suddenly has a dip or a drought or some type of a natural disaster that affects their wheat harvest, the situation could get bad really quickly. So again, just something to keep an eye on. We'll be following this as we go forward. Obviously, we've been talking about it for the last year, and we'll continue to cover it as news becomes available. But hey, on another note, of course, this is our last video before our big Tech Hub Live event taking place next week in Des Moines, Iowa. And I know you have been talking at length regarding who's going to be there, what's going to be said. And I know we have teased the before Tech Hub Live party a little bit, but maybe you can enlighten our viewers a little bit more about what's going to be going on just before we kick off the big event next Tuesday.
Right. Well, registrations are continuing to come in. The attendee numbers, exhibitor numbers, speaker numbers, everything is higher than we frankly had expected. It's exceeded, our goals, which is great. So super big show, exciting. Women in Ag Tech, that does kick off first in-person event. That's on Monday, July 24th from 2 to 5:15, followed by the welcome party, the start of Tech Hub Live. And for those of you who may or may not know, the welcome party will be in a venue called Ricochet in downtown Des Moines. So we knew that there were going to be games and fun, and I don't know if we're going to have a dunk tank there, because that might get out of hand, but
I am not volunteering to sit on the seat. Don't even ask.
But check this out. We have skee ball, darts, bubble hockey, foosball, cornhole, board games, pong, shuffleboard, bumper pool, billiards, and Rico hammer, which I don't even know what that is.
I'm sorry, what hammer?
Rico, RICO hyphen hammer. So it's a German style game where players try to hammer a nail into a stump. So very highbrow game. You have to dress up like in your tennis whites, as if you're going to Wimbledon, only you're.
You bring that up because last year actually this year, I'm sorry, at the Commodity Classic event, CHS at their booth they had a log where you had to drive a nail in using the wrong side of the hammer.
That could be it. So
yeah, and that was very difficult. I have to say, I kept hitting it on the wood part between the hammer head and the stick part of the hammer, and it just would not drive the nail, and all it was doing was denting the wood, which really wasn't very useful. So okay, now that, believe it or not, if you've never tried that, it is a very difficult activity to attempt to do properly. So my hat's off to everyone up in Minnesota who apparently do this quite often, but it's nice to know it'll be in Des Moines too. So I have to check that out at Ricochet. I'll try it. I'm sure you can break a hammer. What the heck?
And we know that all the best deals are consummated around a Rico hammer game and foosball.
Yes, I'm sure a couple of sales. I'm holding out for the bubble hockey myself, but that's just me. So all right. Well, of course, everybody, if you are planning to join us, we'll look forward to seeing you next week, July 24th through the 26th in Des Moines at the before party and also the event itself. Myself and Laura will be on stage quite often, doing some moderation and also our fireside chats. I know that everyone's looking forward to those. The next week, we'll probably have a special Crop Life Retail Week video. It'll be some video highlights from Tech Hub Live. So, you'll look for that if you're not able to attend in person. And of course, check out the magazine in September's edition of Crop Life. We'll have a wrap up of what went on at the show, what was said, and have a lot of pictures of who was there. So
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm really super, super excited. We'll be running around like crazy, but it's gonna be a blast, so.
it should be, yes, I know. Well, hey, speaking of running around like crazy, I know myself, I have been on quite of a binge when it comes to traveling. And this past week, I visited with my friends at Helena. The Helena Products Group had the Evolve Innovation Expo, a field day. It was an outdoor field day, Laura. I got to say, I know I tease you about the heat in Texas, but got nothing on Memphis in middle of July. We were outdoors. It was about 96 degrees.
Oh,
And I
wow.
kept checking my phone. Luckily, the humidity wasn't that high, but the heat index was well over 100 the whole time we were out in the field for those 5 or 6 hours. Luckily, we were under tent most of the time, but still, it was a little muggy, little hot. But the folks in Helena had a lot of things to talk about regarding sustainability and cotton and corn. But the
Mm.
big news was on the soybean front. They are coming out with two new product innovations for 2024, both for seed treatments. The first is called Inertia. It's an enzyme-based soybean seed treatment that strengthens plant growth and yield potential by increasing microbial activity in the root zone.
Mm.
So that I guess it's kind of under the headings of a biological biostimulant. So that will be coming to the marketplace. And also, they are coming out with something called Seed Shield Select. This is a spinoff of the Helena's Seed Shield product. But this one is revolutionary according to the company because it includes fungicide and insecticide and for soybean seed treatment. And unlike a lot of the seed treatments out there that have maybe 4 different active ingredients on them, or perhaps 5, this one has 7, 1 insecticide and 6 fungicides that are going to be on the seed treatment. So, combining these 7, of course, it has much greater potential to help control disease and insects. So again, look for both of these products from Helena come 2024. And I know in the coming weeks, I'll probably have a write-up for our e-newsletter talking about all the goings on at the Helena event. But my thanks to the folks at Helena for inviting me. I had a great time. So,
That's great.
all right. Well, very good. Well, Miss Laura, time for your favorite segment. Time for Fun with Numbers.
Is it gonna be something about the Rico hammer?
Actually, no. This one is about you'll know where we're going with this one,
Okay.
um, given what we were talking about a little earlier.
Okay.
So
What do
your
you have?
number this week is 3, not a percentage, not a dollar amount, just 3. Okay, 3. So, Miss Laura, your choices are: does 3 represent A, the number of Tech Hub Live shows? Is it B, the number of bowling games you and I won at last year's Tech Hub Live before party? Is it C, the number of flights I need to take between Cleveland and Des Moines and back? Or is it D, the number of dates I've been on since my divorce 7 years ago?
I mean, I don't mean to laugh. Should I be crying instead?
You get
Or
if I
be
told
all
you
of the
I'm
above.
not sharing that number, that would be kissing and telling, but if I shared the number with you, yes, you would cry.
Rather, you are funny. All right, well, it's got to be all of them, but I'm gonna go with A because I know for certain that this is the third Tech Hub Live.
You are correct. Yes, the correct answer is A. This will be the third Tech Hub Live. We started in 2021 post COVID, and yeah, it's kind of easy to keep track of how many Tech Hub Lives we're going to have as we go forward, because the last date of the year will also correspond with the number of show we're holding. So, and yes, number of foaling games. I think we only won one last year, a single game, because we only played one as a team. And when we thoroughly beat the people we played, they decided against playing a second game, and no one else wanted to play us. And then the number of flights, you cannot get direct from Cleveland to Des Moines, so I have to connect both ways. So the number is 4.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we made a good team on that foaling game. So
Yeah, well, again, we'll have to see if we can hammer nails upside down with the hammer, and I know I can do billiards. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at billiards. So if you want to play some pool, I got you covered there. So
got it.
all right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us this week. Next week, we'll, like I say, talk about Tech Hub Live with some highlights from the event. Until then, I'm Eric Sfiligoj on behalf of myself and everyone here at Prep Life. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week. If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comment section below. Your feedback is important to us. We will try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.